Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Indianaut podcast, where we interview some of India's next best analytical and creative minds who are not only revolutionizing their own field, but at the same time transforming India's entrepreneurial ecosystem one step at a time. Our guest for the day is the co founder and CEO of Open Secret, a Mumbai based food and beverages startup that makes healthy snacks for families and children. She is a Harvard Business School and IIT Bombay alum with close to a decade's experience in working with renowned FMCG organizations. We have with us Ahana. Let us jump right into the conversation. Hi, Ahana. I hope you're all settled in.
Thank you so much, Gautam, for having me. I must say that a lot of people have addressed me as Mr. Gautam, so it's finally great to speak to another Mr. Gautam. But glad to be here.
No, that's great. That's great. Thank you. So, let us start off with your origin story, Ahana. What inspired you and your co-founder to enter the snacking industry of India?
Yeah, sure. No, very happy to share the background story of Open Secret. I would say that I am the kind of person I am. I'm very driven by purpose and meaning in life. And the experiences that I had really helped me understand the kind of impact I wanted to create. And the story actually goes back to my childhood. I grew up in a small city of Rajasthan called Bharatpur. I was raised by a working mother, and she single handedly raised me and my brother in Bharatpur. I think couple of experiences I would say which really stayed with me. I would say as you know, as a single person, my mother really could not figure out the healthy package situation, food situation in a household, right? So I remember I used to come back from school, would open the lock, and would eat all the junk food which was available in the house. And to be very honest, I was 3x my current size. I was a very overweight kid, and I used to fall sick every time before the exams. And I think at that time, of course, I could not figure out that how food is such an integral part of a health and wellness journey. But that definitely stayed with me. Of course, my weight and my experience stayed with me till college, I would say. And the second thing I would say that, growing up in that part of the country, I definitely realized that the world is not a fair place when it comes to both men and women, right? Was very inspired by my mother. She acted as a role model in my life. Having said that, a lot of girls in my community were not allowed to dream big. I think they were expected to get married, to get settled, and I think I clearly saw how families were very excited for the best in class education for their sons, but they were very okay with the mediocre education for their daughters. So I think this definitely stayed with me and actually inspired me to do something meaningful with my life and to create a place where you can give back to the society and you can do something for women. So I think these two things I would say played a significant role as I was thinking about starting Open Secret. So from Bharatpur, I think few golden words that my mother always told me, which has stayed with me. She said, "Education levels the playing field. It doesn't matter where you come
Right.
from, what's your gender." And I think that has been my inspiration on this journey, which started from Bharatpur. Then I came to IIT Bombay, and then of course to Boston. But talking about IIT Bombay, I would say very transformational experience. I remember few things that I absolutely loved doing on campus. One was I loved storytelling. I was part of the theater team, and I've done plays in Prithvi Theater as well. And I was also part of the entrepreneurship cell. I think that was my first exposure to see the beauty of creating something from
I
scratch.
think let me just stop you right there. I think the IIT Bombay's entrepreneur cell is notoriously famous for being a huge enabler of the Indian startup ecosystem in general, right? E-Cell IIT Bombay.
Yes.
It's quite famous throughout the country. In fact,
Yeah, I mean, I think the team has done a fantastic job. I remember it was like a really small initiative early on, and in a decade, I think very proud of the work that the team has
right.
done, and they have different initiatives, a very fantastic work done by that. So I was part of the entrepreneurship cell when I was at IIT Bombay as well, and I think definitely that was my first time interacting with investors and founders, and realizing that the beauty of creating something from scratch. So I think these two things really made my vision very, very clear. I really wanted to be in the consumer goods sector. It could be my naivety, or I don't know, I would say that I understood my calling pretty early on, that I really wanted to be in brand space. I just love the way brands tell stories, and the way they impact the lives of millions of consumers every single day. And because of that, decided to work with Procter and Gamble, work with them across different functions. And then in 2014, I realized that people in India, especially families in India, were demanding for better for you products, and were demanding for better for you brands, but they weren't done. And I think that made me realize there's a great white space opportunity to create a new age brand for new age India. And that's the reason why I decided to go to Harvard Business School, to learn how to build a company, how to run a team. And it was actually when I was studying at a Harvard Business School, I understood, and I would say that I fell in love with food. I saw how people in my section were, how conscious they were about what they were putting in their body. And if you go to any grocery store in US, right, whether it's Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or any local store, there's an aisle full of healthy, convenient, tasty snacks. So many options for families to choose from. And to be very honest, I think that was the first time I started thinking about food very, very differently. And I thought about the childhood I had, and how my mother struggled to find access to healthy and tasty snacking packaged food. And at the same time, when I was studying at HBS, I know one day I got a call from my sister-in-law, and I was generally chatting with her. And she shared the same stress that, I'm not able to find a really good snacking brand for my niece. And to me, it was like, okay, this problem has transcended generation. And as I started reading more about it, it was very clear to me that India has made a lot of progress. I mean, there's so much that we all are very, very proud of, but to be very honest, it's still a third world country when it comes to packaged food. Packaged food is such an integral part of Indian families, and that's how junk has entered so many houses. And the question I asked myself, why do Indian families have to eat junk? There has to be a better solution. And if you do some research, you will find that India is one of the most unhealthy packaged food countries in the world. So I think that's how food became, within consumer goods, food became a very interested, or I would say, my purpose within the consumer goods space. And that was the reason I decided to work at General Mills in US, because I really wanted to understand how consumer first innovation happens. So launched a brand in US as my first assignment. My second assignment was, led a P&L of $300 million. And after these two assignments, I would say I was also closely observing what was happening back in India. And I saw brands getting launched, and people were loving those brands. So the thing that I told to myself, that this is the right time for me to come back to India, and to execute of this lifelong dream of creating something from scratch within consumer goods, within food, and to enable every Indian family snack better. So I think that was the decision to come back. And of course, people always question me with like, visa nahi laga kya, aapki shaadi ho rahi hai kya? And of course, all these societal norms are always there. I think it's still
Right.
hard for them to understand that a single girl can move continents because of professional reasons as well. So I think that was my core motivation to come back to India, and to live this purpose and to execute on this purpose. I would say that very, very fortunate to have Udit as my partner in crime, right? So I have known Udit for more than a decade. So
All
when
right.
we both were working at Procter and Gamble, and I've known him for more than 10 years now. And I remember, even when I was studying at Harvard Business School, I would visit my family in India, and I would always give him a call, and I would keep telling him stories about that. Do you know that there's so much junk in every household, and we should change that. So I've always stayed in touch with him. And when I came back to India, I think he was the first person I went and spoke to, that this is something which I'm starting up. Will you be interested in joining? And I think he resonated with the problem as well. And I'm sure every kid in this country would resonate with this problem. And I think that's how we started Open Secret.
That's great. That's great. That's wonderful. Uh, the entire crux and philosophy of your product being so closely linked to your own past, and your own motivations being so closely intertwined with your company's vision. I think that's the best kind of founder stories there are out there, right? Let us fast forward to December 2019, right? So there's something very unique to Open Secret, right? In December 2019, Open Secret raised investment from Matrix Partners, which also saw participation from Paytm's Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Snapdeal's Kunal Behel and Rohit Bansal, and Godrej Consumer Products Vivek Gambhir. These folks are usually investors in tech first companies. What sets your company apart that it gathered so much interest from such kind of investors?
Yeah, I think two things I would say, right? Firstly, every investor is looking for is the size of price and the problem that you're solving. Is that a big enough problem? And to answer that question, if I talk about snacking landscape in India, right, it's more than $12 billion, and it's growing in double digits, and 80% of this entire snacking world is absolutely junk.
All
And to
right.
be, I think it was very clear to me that the next generation of household brands are going to be brands with this unjunking positioning. And I think when we share this data to them, and of course when you think about the problem statement, I think people very easily resonate with the problem because it's a very clearly a supply constrained market, right? So that was the first thing. Is this a big enough problem to be solved? And the answer was clearly yes.
Yes.
The second thing I would say that, what investors also look at is the right to win. Are we the right team? Are we the right people to solve this problem? And I think that is something which I would say that, very, very fortunate to have the people who are best in class in what they do, but also very, very driven by purpose. And I think we as Open Secret have made a choice that we really want to create a brand which not only resonates with a mother in Bangalore, but also resonates with a mother sitting in Bharatpur. So the scale that we are going after, the execution capabilities that we have, given the expertise that we have built within the team, I think these two factors, if you combine that, the size of prize and the right to win, I think that gave the confidence to them that, we can create a dent in this more than $12 billion category. And I would say that's so grateful to have these mentors in the form of investors. And to be very honest, I would say the last 15 months, my biggest learning has been that, of course, money is important, capital is important, but more than that, the kind of guidance, the kind of network that they provide, it's unparalleled. So definitely I'm very, very focused on bringing in right partners on this journey as we scale.
I think you've quite humbly, forgotten to mention the third reason. That would be you yourself, right? Between your educational background and your educational pedigree and your professional background, I think you were always the right person to lead such kind of a ship, right? To enter the snacking industry, specifically the healthy snacking industry, given your own background in general. So I think that must have also helped with the investors. But
Yeah, I think the kind of person I am, I think one thing which I'm always driven by is not very satisfied of who I am today, and how can
oh,
I be better. So I would say that I'm always very positively dissatisfied as a person in life.
okay, but I think as long as that acts as a very positive
Yeah,
motivator behind your next steps, I think that's a
of
good
course.
thing to have. I think that's a good thing to have.
Of course, yeah. I mean, see, every 3 months we're becoming a new company, the rate at which we are growing. So I think everyone has to grow. I have to grow and be a better CEO, think differently, and so do my team as well.
Right, right. And let's talk about the watershed moment which your company and basically every corporate company in India went through. That is COVID-19, right? And let's talk about D2C brands in specific. That D2C brands such as yours went through a whirlwind of emotions in the past 1 year because of COVID, right? Between the lockdown
Yeah.
and everything becoming digital first to then things opening up, there being pent up demand. What has been your brand's COVID-19 journey?
Yeah, no, I truly believe in, never let a crisis go to waste. And I would say that it was extremely difficult in the beginning because we do our own manufacturing, right? And our
Okay.
manufacturing, the entire operations was located in Bombay. So it was at the heart of where all the COVID lockdown and crisis was happening, right? But I would say it was the team's resilience which enabled us to thrive during COVID. So to give you some examples, right, in the second half of 2020, in 6 months, we grew 7x.
Oh,
Our
wow.
cookies, which was basically our first launch, it became bestsellers on Amazon and on Big Basket. And I would say, the third thing I would say, the category expansion that we have done. So in the second half of 2020, we had sold more than 1 million cookies, and then we decided that we really want to make Open Secret a platform, and we launched into more and more categories. So since October and February, we have also entered into three more very deep categories. So we started with nutty cookies, launched nutty chips, then launched nutty spread, and then launched nuts. So of course it was a tough time, but I think very grateful, as I said, for the resilience and the passionate team that we have, that we started thinking about how to leverage this, and how to expedite our growth, even during the lockdown and the COVID time. And the other
Right.
thing I would say that, um, as we were talking about investors, right? I mean, they were always there to help us and guide us, and I think for us it was very clear that what they also like, that we it's the bias for action and for the agility that we have. And with Open Secret, our mission is very clear, that we really want to make Open Secret a platform. And initially, when we just started with cookies, someone who was coming to our website, was just had the option to buy cookies. And now let's take an example of a mother, because she is a core consumer. When she's going to a store, she must be spending 500, 600 rupees, right? But the way she's spending is, she's not spending 500 rupees on just buying cookies. She's spending to filling that basket, which could be with some cookies and some chips and some nuts and something else, right? And that is the kind of journey that we want to replicate online with this platform strategy. And I think that is what I would say a biggest accomplishment, and what we're trying to do. And even during the lockdown and COVID as well, is how can we make Open Secret a platform where a mother can fill in the basket with all the snacking products that she buys for the entire family.
Right, right. Let's talk about the categories where in which Open Secret is currently operating in. So, I, for example, I'm a huge fan of the chocolate almond cookies from Open Secret, right? And I think even though your target audience is children, I believe that your products do act as guilty pleasures for adults as well, right? And like you yourself mentioned, you recently launched flavored almonds, another product that can double for both children and adults. So,
Yeah.
what has been your product development process so far? Like, how do you decide to enter a very specific subcategory of snacks, and how do you go about building your product?
Absolutely. So I would say that, I'll tell you how we initially thought about cookies. So, um, before launching Open Secret, I actually worked with General Mills team in India, right? And we had launched Pillsbury snacking. So that that gave me an opportunity to actually connect with a lot of mothers, whether she was in Calcutta, or whether she was in Bangalore or Bombay, or Delhi. I think one thing which was very clear to me, which was that what mother want their kids or family to eat, or and what kids want to eat, they are mutually exclusive. And that was the aha moment for me. And I think that's where this unjunking positioning came into existence, that every family wants to eat the tastiest product, but the mother feels very guilty giving it to the family because it is full of junk. And how can we unjunk it? So the reason why we started with cookies and biscuits is the penetration of cookies and biscuits in this country is 99%. Almost every household is consuming biscuit and cookies. And if you see the entire category, it is dominated by three big companies. It's ITC, Britannia, and Parle. They have more than 75% market share. And you must have seen little to no innovation when it comes to health and wellness in this category, right? And
Definitely.
that's the reason why we started. And the mother was very clear. I think I would say we are very fortunate to have a fantastic chief product officer at Open Secret, and that is a mother. So she told us, and I asked her, "What do you not like about it, like in a cookie?" And she said, "I don't like the maida." So we said, "Okay, great." So we removed the entire maida. That's how we unjunked it, and we added 40 to 50% nuts, and that's how nutty cookies were born. And I would say that all our innovation is just following a north star, which is the mother. And she loved her cookies. And you're absolutely right. I think, one thing which I've realized, that the mother is shopping, and the reason why we talk about kid, because that is top of her mind, right? I mean, the biggest problem that she is always thinking about is whether my kid is going to eat something or not. Having said that, when the product comes to the house, it's the entire family is enjoying the product. It's the mother-in-law, it's the husband. Husband always come very low in the priority list of a mother. I've realized that, but I think kid always tops the chart, right? So that's why we
Right.
talk a lot more about kid, but overall we are solving for the mother, and she is thinking about and the end consumption is happening with the entire family. And that's how cookies were born. And then, she came back to us, and that's the beauty of a D2C brand, right? You hear from a customer so frequently. And she told me that, can you give us something in savory? And I said, yes, why not? I think that's how we started working on chips, and how can we unjunk chips. And few things that, which is true to us, is we're never going to launch a Me Too product. Whenever you will hear a product innovation from Open Secret, it will be 10x differentiated product. So we thought about, okay, let's create India's first sandwich chips. And again, we love making things nutty. We love unjunking with nuts. So we brought that element to the chips category, where the cracker is made up of super grains, but there's a layer of nut butter. And then she came back to us and she said, can you make my mornings easier? I mean, I'm giving her my kid chocolate spread, which is a lot of sugar, palm oil, and that's what we unjunked. And then I think recently the why almonds we launched, she said, can you actually give me nuts that my kids love? I really want them to eat their almonds, but they're not. Like, I've spoken to so many kids and they would say, my mom will give me 5 almonds, but I will just throw them because I just don't like eating nuts.
Right.
So all the innovation that has happened, Gotham, is basically hearing from the mothers. And as I said, the name also Open Secret, right? The mother is the real secret. And when you think about, if we are creating a brand for families, we want to keep mothers on the pedestal and not us, because who knows what is best for the family? It's the mother. I mean, if I have to ask you your food habits, who's the one person who knows what do you love, what is best for you? It is the mother, right? So we really
Right.
want to celebrate all the mothers, and if we really want to create a dent in the snacking space, we want to be an enabler and just listen to her very, very carefully and deliver to the promises that we have made to her. And that's what we've been following throughout.
No, that's great. That's wonderful. Ahana, let's move on to your personal entrepreneurial journey and Open Secrets future in general. What have been your biggest lessons on your entire tenure as Open Secrets founder?
So I mean, I would say that, one thing which I've realized is how important it is to have the right mindset, and how mindset separates the best from the rest. And I truly believe that, because one thing which is very clear in my head is that this journey will have a lot of ups and downs. There is no doubt about it, right? How you react when you are down is going to define your journey. And the biggest shift in me was, whenever there is a crisis situation or whenever there is a down period, do you see it as a worry or as a stress? Because you can waste hours and you can waste days thinking and stressing about, oh my God, why did this happen? Or you can bring a very solution mindset, which is, this is a problem and I have to solve it. Let me think about n and different ways to solve the problem. And this sounds very simple, but I think that has enabled me, and I think made me a better entrepreneur to deal with these down periods and, crisis situation when things don't go as you plan. And I think that is the biggest learning for me. Whenever there is a down period, rather than worrying about it or stressing about it, always bring that solution mindset. Always have the focus on solving the problem.
What growth plans does Open Secret have for the future? What is next in store for all of us?
So I would say, Gautam, I think, as I said, what we really want to become, we want to become a platform, right? Where you can come and get any product which will solve your snacking needs. So there are snacking moments round the clock, and there are junk moments round the clock. So our goal is that we would be unjunking all those snacking moments with a wide variety of products, with a platform, and with this really high innovation velocity. I think in the last 4 months we have entered into 3 more categories. We have 2 more category launches ready. So that's the whole idea, is to have a really high innovation velocity. And the second thing I would say that, for us, the vision is very, very clear, is we want to reach to every family of this country. And I think that's the choice of the categories also that we play in, right? I mean, we want to create products, whether it's nutty cookies or nutty chips, which will resonate with not only the top cities of the country, but also the remote areas of the country. And just to give you an example, like on Amazon, more than 60% of our sales come from remote parts of the country outside top cities.
That's wonderful.
And that's and I think and that is because we've been also a digital first brand. We've been able to have this pan India distribution because of our online presence, and that is the kind of brand that we really want to create for the entire nation.
All right, that's great. That's wonderful. And this is something we ask every Indianaut who comes onto the show. What advice do you have for other aspiring entrepreneurs or Indianauts?
I think that's the firstly. I think whenever I think about advice, I've realized that everyone is so unique, and it's so important to bring your authentic self, to follow your own journey. I've seen so many people, and they're like, "Oh, what was IIT necessary? Was HBS necessary?" And I said, there is not a set path to success, and don't even try to copy anyone's journey. And I think that is extremely important to me, and that is also the kind of culture that I want to create within my team, so that everyone can bring their authentic self, because everyone has their own talents. And I think that's the message I would give to everyone, that just be a better version of you every single day, and only aim for that.
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Ahana, for joining us today. We wish you and Open Secret the very best for the future. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this episode. The Indianaut podcast is available on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook to receive all updates on the upcoming episode. We'll see you in the next one.